This is my little brother Silas, and we've just arrived at one of Louisiana's most polluted waterways. The water's got so many chemicals and trash in it that there's been restrictions on eating seafood or swimming in these waters since 1987. But could there still be some monster fish swimming in these waters? I took my brother with me to find out. I started by trying to catch a bass for over 2 hours with no success, so we switched to targeting sunfish instead. Luckily for us, our luck would start to pick up, and all the commotion would even draw in a shadowy monster. But for now, we're just going to try and find a nice school of bluegill just to get on the board and to have some fish for the day. It'd been a good little while of catching nothing, so we wanted to get at least one fish before we start targeting big fish.
Yep, got one. All right, nice little bluegill. Ooh. Finally on the board. Well, Silas, you got some catching up to do now. All right, look at that. Nice size. Chunk him back to the water. There's a way to release him otherwise, I would, but. Ooh, there's a bunch of mullet that were right there. That might have been what was hitting my hook. Nope. Is that a... No, that's another bluegill.
At this point, Silas was getting a little bit frustrated by not catching fish, so he moved over next to me and decided he was going to cast where I was casting. At first, I was a little bit upset, but then I realized he's just trying to fish, so I let him go ahead and cast out, and it wasn't too long before he started getting his own little bite right next to me.
Catch it, reel it. All right, well, show the camera. Hold on. All right, take it off the hook. There's your first one. Get him on hooked.
Actually, like my fifth one for the day, but first
Well, from here, we don't have any of the other ones on camera, so it doesn't count.
Earlier in the day, Silas was fishing in the backyard pond. I was catching lots of fish, so technically he caught more, but not from here.
Got another one. All right, got the fish moving now. That one will be perfect catfish bait size.
The fishing was good, but nothing big was hitting our baits. It wasn't until Silas called me over that we finally got a glimpse of the apex predator of these waterways.
Oh, I see it. That's a big boy. Oh, that is big. Goodness.
This was a very large alligator gar. The silhouette alone was taller than Silas, and I knew that if I caught this fish, I'd be in for a massive fight. And after a couple of attempts to try and get his attention, the beast finally turned my way.
I don't want to lose this lure to him, but I think this braid would be enough. That's a massive gar. It's a massive alligator gar. Yep. Oh, he smoked it, but he missed it. He missed the hook. It was in that grass.
But after teasing me for a few minutes, his shadowy figure dissolved into the murky water. I decided to call him Houdini because he seemed to disappear as soon as he'd be spotted. We went back to fishing with our bobbers and worms, but we kept our eyes peeled for any sign of Houdini. Unfortunately, we wouldn't see him again until the next day.
Yeah. Ooh. That one's pretty. Got them red fins. Look, hold on. Let me get this guy unhooked. Look, cast it out like normal. Silas, cast it out like normal. And then you're gonna reel it to where you're wanting to put it. So for me, I'm gonna reel it to about right there. Then I'm gonna grab this line. Oh, I'm gonna grab this line like this and pull it out. That way you can just let it go like that and drop it right in front of them. It gets them very aggressive, like that. Another one. Oop. He's sad. He's fine. Got him. Another one.
Now Silas really likes crabs, so when I saw this one scurrying around the edge, I decided to retrieve it back and see if I could get the crab lifted up in the air. I've done this a couple times on my past videos, but it was still funny to see Silas's reaction. Silas was definitely very excited to see a crab, but it almost broke my line, so I had to fling it back down and let it go back in the water. The water was teeming with life, it just didn't seem to have any bass in it whatsoever. We fished for a while, catching a whole lot of bluegill, but no matter how much I tried to bass fish, I couldn't get anything to bite. The only thing that seemed to be here was panfish, mullet, gar, and then that crab. But for being in such polluted waters, all of these fish seemed to be pretty healthy. None of the bluegill were underfed. I mean, they weren't monster size, but they were all good, healthy size and weight. It's actually kind of crazy to see that some of the most polluted water just looked like normal water and had perfectly healthy fish in it. And while I was doing pretty good with all my fishing, Silas was getting a little bit upset that he wasn't getting as much action, so I told him we could switch spots as soon as he catches another fish.
Got one. You got to catch another one before we go. Not me. I can catch as many as I want.
I know Silas was probably getting a little annoyed with me constantly picking on him and teasing him a little bit, but, you know, I'm his older brother. It's kind of what I got to do. Now, I could be a mean big brother and keep catching fish in front of him and rubbing it in, but that's not the kind of brother I am. So instead, I started giving him some tips to tell him how I was catching the fish, rather than just picking on him for not catching fish.
Stop breathing. Leave it. Oop, I got a fish. Look, you were getting a fish, see? Just stop reeling it when you're like pretty far away from it and it'll naturally come back. Ooh, that one's really pretty. Look at him. Stop reeling. Just wait. You getting hit? Pop it. There, reel it, reel it. There you go.
Alright, now we can move.
Oh, we gotta show the camera. Oh. Just. All right, I'm gonna use the rest of this worm and then we'll move to our other spot.
We switched over to another spot that isn't exactly urban, but it is right off the highway. I call this place the Alley of Gators because it's always got tons of gators swimming around. But I've caught tons of small bass, bluegill, and even our baby alligator gar named Jaws from this spot. I figured it'd be a nice spot to try to catch a bass with my homemade lure. I made this lure in a video where I challenged AI to create a better lure than me, and this one won. And to be honest with you, it's kind of my favorite lure of all time. But I was determined to catch a bass with it before the day was over. Unfortunately, I was constantly being relentlessly pursued by small gar that are very difficult to hook properly. The other problem I kept running into is that there were tons of gators getting all in my casting space, so I was very limited on where I could cast. This lure was good, but it wasn't strong enough to catch a gator. But luckily for me, we were about to get some good action in this spot that we hadn't been getting in the other spots we were going. I was determined to have at least one thing bite this lure and get hooked.
That gator's giving me the stink eye. Ooh. I got one too. Are we doubling? Ah. I think we almost doubled up on gar there for a second. This gator's small right here. Got one. Ooh. Well, had one. He's probably not going to bite again, Silas, after I hooked him like that.
Now this shot right here was probably going to be one of the coolest shots I could have had in the entire video. I cast out, I saw a gar, I watched him chase the bait, and I literally even see him bite the lure and get hooked. Well, that's what the video would have shown.
Genuinely, seconds after my phone died, I just caught this gar. That is so aggravating. It's been literal seconds since my phone died.
Now what I couldn't show was me trying to unhook the gar and getting a treble hook through the fingernail. But anyways, we packed it in after this one and decided to go back at it the next day.
Somebody left some gulps. I will take them.
Apparently somebody had come by this morning and used some gulps and just left the whole pack of baits there. And those things are usually pretty expensive, so I definitely wasn't going to let them stay out here and just be litter. But that's when I saw the shadow again in the water. So I decided to cast out and see if I could hook into him.
He just took my bait. He just took my favorite fishing lure.
I was genuinely stunned to silence for a solid 10 seconds. And that's when something that I can only describe as miraculous happened.
Silas, come here quick. I hooked into the big gar and he snapped my line, but then the lure, he just spit up. Hurry, I need this to catch my bait.
The current was slowly taking my lure away and there was no way to safely descend and get it, so I had to use Silas's fishing rod to try and catch this lure and bring it back up to me before the current took it or the gar bit it again.
Oh, thank you, Lord. He just chewed through the string of the lure. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Bent my hook out of whack. Oh my goodness. Not doing that again.
After nearly losing my favorite lure to this giant alligator gar, I decided to pack it up from that spot and to try one more place in the city that I knew of that might have some fish. When I showed up, the water was overflowing from this little spill pipe, and it smelled like absolute sewage. There were no fish swimming around, not a single life form to be found, except for probably the trillions of bacteria in there. It was very upsetting that I was never able to catch a bass here, but I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't expect to catch that much in this city, and I was actually very surprised to catch everything that I did, and even to see that massive alligator gar swimming around in these canals. But more important than the fishing was the time I got to spend with my little brother Silas. So it was awesome having him out here. If y'all guys want to see him back in another video, let me know in the comments. And as always, Jesus loves you, I love you, and have a great day.